All right, let's talk about metals. Metals are the most common type of element on the periodic table in the universe. There are more different types of metals than anything else. That does not mean, though, that metals are the most common thing in the universe. The most common thing in the universe is actually hydrogen. Stars are made out of hydrogen. You are primarily hydrogen and oxygen because you are primarily water. But there are more different types of metals in the universe than types of nonmetals or types of metalloids. So some of the metals that you're familiar with are iron, titanium, cobalt, copper. Everyone knows what a metal is. You're surrounded by metals every day. You use them every day for something. They are a ubiquitous part of human life. You do need to know, though, the properties of metals. What makes something a metal? So these are the properties that you need to be familiar with. They are shiny, they are hard, and they are good conductors of heat and electricity. Most metals are very shiny. The iron in this picture is not particularly shiny, but you can make it shiny. Steel is shiny, and that's made out of iron. Titanium is pretty shiny, cobalt shiny, copper shiny. Metals are hard, with very few exceptions. An exception that comes to mind immediately, obviously, is mercury. Mercury exists as a liquid at room temperature. Gallium, which we will actually play with a little bit later, has got a very low melting point. So body heat turns solid gallium into a liquid. So it's hard, but only just hard. Mercury, though, is a liquid at room temperature. It's really the only exception to the hard rule. And gallium, kind of. But for the most part, of the metals that are on the periodic table, all but 1.5 are hard. And they are all good conductors of heat and electricity. What that means is that heat is transferred easily through metals. Electricity is transferred easily through metals. You know this if you picked up a hot pan off the stove, it burns you because the heat from the stove has gone into the pan and into your hand, it burns you. Because metals are good conductors of electricity, wires are made out of metal. Wires conduct electricity. They carry the current along the body of the wire. Electricity passes very easily through metals. They are good conductors of heat and electricity. Two other properties that you need to be familiar with that you might not have heard about are these two. Malleable and ductile. Malleable means that it can be hammered flat. So metals can be hammered flat with a hammer, with a press. And ductile means that metals can be stretched into wire. Both of these things are properties that only metals have. A few metalloids, but it's almost always metals if it can be malleable or if it's ductile. This is the periodic table. You notice that pretty much everything that's in gray is a metal. For whatever reason, this picture has hydrogen as a metal. Disregard that. Hydrogen is not a metal. But elements starting with lithium and going all the way down here to 115 are for the most part metals. Clearly, metals make up the vast majority of the periodic table. We'll talk about the nonmetals, which here are yellow, and metalloids, which are red, in just 1 second.